Why is Norway swimming in oil wealth while Saudi Arabia is not? Picture this: two countries with a plethora of resources, where one is a prime example of prosperity and social progress. At the same time, the other cannot satisfy its citizens' demands. One is the country of the burning sun, with stunning coastlines and a strong economy. The second is a desolate realm with abundant oil but volatile administration and a crippled economy. Despite being on opposite corners of the globe, Norway and Saudi Arabia have very inconsistent results. What separates them then? The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia remains the largest economy in all of the MENA region, and the country of the Arab Kingdom faces countless challenges. One of Saudi's biggest issues is the lack of diversification in its economy. The country's entire GDP is heavily dependent on oil exports, which pose a great threat to the country's overall economic prosperity. The export of energy products makes up a total of 90% of Saudi Arabia's exports, which puts the economy in great peril. Since the country is unable to produce food crops, feeding its population is heavily dependent on food imports. Saudi Arabia faces competition in the energy market while facing the dilemma of diversifying its economy and maintaining its export market. While the hike in oil prices has increased the overall revenue generated by the Saudi economy, it still does not save the country from financial shocks. In a world moving rapidly towards alternative energy resources, Saudi needs to act fast before its major revenue stream runs dry. Why is it that a country so advanced is unable to diversify its economy without facing issues? One of the main reasons for this is the increasing population. Not only is the rise in population due to Saudi nationals, but also the load of immigrants that the kingdom has to bear. The government has instilled policies to create a comfortable lifestyle for its citizens. However, it has led to an increase in the lower staff needed to support the elite lifestyle led by most Saudi nationals. The country's tax policies have also contributed to the state it is in at the moment. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has long been home to extravagant royal families who lived in luxury and did not produce anything of value to the country. To pacify rising opposition, regular citizens were given an illusion of royal status by gift-giving and waiving off tax payments. The country slowly transformed into a welfare state where politicians ran the government based on popularity. This life of luxury that the citizens availed was funded by the oil consumers of the world. So, what is the future for a country that has based its entire economy on sustaining the lives of a few wealthy citizens? Saudi's unsustainable and volatile growth plan will not work long-term. Oil is a considerably finite resource, and increasing production is yet another challenge the country will have to face. Let's say, hypothetically, that Saudi Arabia manages to increase its oil production enough to continue sustaining its lavish lifestyle. What happens when, in the next 10 or 15 years, the world shifts completely to alternative energy? The kingdom may also, as it has before, find a solution to its depleting resources by expelling non-citizens. This solution comes with its own set of adversities. The comfortable lives led by Saudi citizens will not be able to continue if non-citizens leave the country. Saudi nationals will not be open to doing the odd jobs that immigrants have been doing for years, and this opposition will only work towards further destabilizing the country's administration. Even if citizens do agree to replace immigrant professionals, the quality of work will decrease greatly. All of these adversities point towards one inevitable conclusion: revolution and war. One of the biggest examples for Saudi would be Venezuela. The country faced a similar economic crisis due to a lack of diversity in its economy and heavy dependence on oil exports. Venezuela became unable to produce enough food to satisfy its citizens, and the country faced a nationwide famine, and poverty levels spiked. Precedents like this act as blaring warning signs for the Arab Kingdom, which is heading in the same direction towards impending doom. If Saudi Arabia does not start taking immediate action towards diversifying their economy and creating a sustainable revenue stream, we may just witness the downfall of a global giant. While Venezuela sets a great example of what not to do, there is one great precedent for Saudi Arabia to follow. The small Scandinavian country Norway is the world's most inclusive economy and poses as the best country to provide sustained growth over its lifetime. Norway's economy is based on a variety of sectors and creates job opportunities for the greater part of its population, and decreases its overall poverty index. With a population of only 5 million people, Norway is definitely set apart from the rest of the world. Its income inequality is the lowest in the world due to the country's diverse education policies. Not only does Norway manage its finances from the grassroots level, but it is also home to the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world. This helps Norway manage the revenues generated by oil and gas and spreads it over a long-term economic plan. In return for economic and financial stability, the citizens of Norway enjoy a high quality of life with purchasing power. Norway does not have a minimum wage limit, but workers are given a specific wage floor as part of a collective agreement. Employment in Norway is the most stable in the world, and workers are paid well and have easy access to jobs. Not only is employment easily accessible to those who want to work, but so are other social factors such as education, gender equality, and lowering the carbon footprint. Norway's policy for education is a great example of how the country has managed to manage and diversify its economy from the very root. Education systems in Norway promote high-quality education in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, along with entrepreneurial skills and vocational training. To raise the quality of education being provided, Norway has introduced a 5-year master's program for teachers and learning professionals. Norway's economic diversity is heavily dependent on the country's aim to innovate. Businesses can apply for a research and development grant through a research-based innovation program, as long as their research creates value for the country and society. Norwegian companies can also avail of a tax incentive that offers business tax credits to encourage R&D. While Norway's economy depends on its oil and gas exports, the country has great policies to support electric vehicles, which means that most of the vehicles driven in Norway are electric or hybrid. This is due to the country's environmental policies and the drive to improve air quality and reduce the carbon footprint. Norway's economy has identified its weaknesses due to oil price fluctuations and has used its strengths to broaden its revenue-generating horizons. These broader growth sectors, high and stable employment, and high living standards create a sustainable and happy national economy through long-term policies. Norway's drive to diversify its economy serves as a valuable lesson to the Saudi policymakers to manage their economy and stabilize finances before time runs out. Saudi Arabia announced Vision 2023 in 2016 to diversify its economy and focus on increasing domestic investments. The goal is to increase and broaden exports and increase the incoming revenue through oil and gas, while diversifying in other areas such as transport and entertainment. According to Saudi's Vision 2030, non-oil exports will be statistically more significant and create a positive impact on the economic growth, both in the long and the short term of the country's aim to meet its decade-wide goal. Oil price shocks have a great impact on Saudi's economy since direct foreign investment and local investments are negatively impacting the economy due to the constant fluctuation, which is inevitably negative. The 2030 targets are being negatively impacted by the FDI as well, which is a heavy burden on the country's targeted economic goals. This leaves only one option for the policymakers, and that is to focus on non-oil exports to get over the impacts of the oil price shocks, domestic investments, and direct foreign investments. Maintaining this will help create sustainable economic growth in the country and, in the long run, help Saudi Arabia fulfill its vision for 2023. This goal has already proven to be beneficial for the kingdom, since the global pandemic saw oil prices plummet internationally. Since travel restrictions were in place, Saudi's biggest oil investors drastically pulled back on imports, which caused the country to take a huge blow to its economy. Countries like China were no longer importing as much oil as they used to, and this was a cause for concern. The situation was global, and all oil exports decreased significantly, which contributed to lowering the GDP from 0.3% to minus 6.8% in 2020 alone. This reliance on gas and oil was proving to be poisonous for the peninsula's economy. Other than just focusing on non-oil exports, policymakers need to focus on effectively diversifying the economy, encouraging domestic investment in the country. Domestic investment is important to recover from the impact of oil price shocks and direct foreign investment. Policymakers should focus on increasing the production and productivity of the citizens rather than relying on immigrant workers. To meet Vision 2023, Saudi desperately needs to increase competitiveness and create geographical trends moving towards Africa and Asia. The plan for Saudi Arabia to diversify towards health, energy, and industrial leadership and create a sustainable environment to establish an economy of the future. According to Prince Mohammed bin Salman, a series of policies and nationwide aspirations have been set for research and development purposes to be covered over the next decade. According to Prince Salman, the aim for the policymakers and the citizens is to see Saudi as a globally competitive kingdom and to strengthen its position in the world as the largest economy in the MENA region. Saudi Arabia has aimed to have an annual investment equal to 2.5% of its GDP by 2040 through research and development and innovation as a global leader. This has been communicated by the Crown Prince, who also heads the Supreme Committee for RDI. The kingdom aims to create high-value jobs in science and technology to add 16 billion to the country's overall GDP by the year 2040. This is an area of concern for the country since job creation is difficult considering the luxury the citizens are used to. However, job creation is a key concern for the administration. An upside to the situation is that the unemployment rate is the lowest Saudi has seen in the past 7 to 8 years. But gender inequality is still a major cause for concern. The employment rate is 10.1% for men and is still higher for women. To reach its target in 2030, Saudi seeks to partner up with multinational companies, research centers from around the world, and non-profit organizations and make co-investments. The newly set up RDI Authority will develop moonshots and flagship programs and projects to realize this aim and move towards the ultimate goal of becoming a global leader. While all seems well on paper, there are challenges that the country has to face in realizing its ultimate vision. To overcome its vulnerable economic condition, Saudi Arabia will need to stabilize their economy using adopted tactics. The goal is to increase non-oil GDP from 16 to 50%, which is a bold goal, and the country will have to work hard to meet it. The goals will need to be reassessed to make sure the vision is fulfilled, and the responsibility lies on the policymakers. The achievability of the vision in the time period that is left leaves a big question mark on further development. Further adjustments and corrections will need to be made to the vision in order to see it is fulfilled. So far, in realizing its goals, Saudi faces challenges in many areas. The gender gap is a big problem for the country. The Arab Kingdom has always been late to the equality game, and this has affected its economy more than the authorities could have anticipated. Closing the gender gap on all levels, starting from education, is going to be a massive challenge. Another major concern will be creating trust in the global economy. For a long time now, Saudi has been a front-runner in oil exports. To make its place in the global market as a diverse economy, the country will need to fight tooth and nail to make a place for itself to gain significant export opportunities. In conclusion, the economic condition of Saudi Arabia is in great peril. The dependence on oil exports and the lack of diversification are causing the economy to plummet. Saudi also needs to pay attention to a rapid increase in its population, both on the natural front as well as the rise in immigrants from different regions. Mass demolitions and eviction are not the answer to these situations and will only cause opposition from the labor class. The country needs to pay attention to the non-sustainable lifestyle led by its citizens and develop long-term plans to handle population increase issues. Taking examples from countries like Venezuela, Saudi can draw up policies that help sustain its economy while realizing its goals. Mass expulsion of non-citizens will only lead to a drastic decrease in skilled workers in the country, and the economy will suffer as a consequence. To avoid the risk of civil violence and eventual war, Saudi policymakers need to think sensitively about the situation rather than act on impulse. Controlling the country's rapidly declining economic and financial conditions is not a one-day task and will need to be spread over a sensible period with realistic goals. It is also important to make sure the culture and history of the land do not get lost amidst the chaos that is the economy. The kingdom does not only revolve around the Saudis and their oil wealth, but is the fruit of hard work, dedication, and traders who roam the desert to make it into the glittering kingdom it is today. It is the home to Muslims around the world, and any harsh decisions may affect everyone linked to the Arab Peninsula. In short, even as the wealth generated by oil is dwindling, the future is yet to be predicted. There is still hope for Saudi to maintain its economy and take matters into the right hands. If all goes to plan, Vision 2030 may not be as far-fetched as it currently seems. However, this relies on the citizens of the country just as much as the policymakers, economists, and rulers who run the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. For years, the great land of Arabia has survived the invasion and political instability. It is now time to get back on the horse and reassess the country's situation before the clock strikes 12 and the magic runs out. The world is watching as Saudi Arabia works hard to diversify its exports. All may not be lost yet, and Saudi Arabia might just be able to pull this off. If you enjoyed our content, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, subscribe to our channel for more information content like this one. See you next time with another video.